And every time Popular Mechanics calls the people of this movement nuts, and every time Time magazine dismisses real, hard physical evidence that a new investigation needs to be launched into how concrete was pulverized, every time Time magazine dismisses that evidence and instead writes a two-page article about the psychology of the conspiracy movement, these propagandists, professional liars and tools who cannot, even by any stretch of the imagination, be considered journalists, strike another nail into the coffin of another rescue worker. We who are still dying from 9/11, who went into the towers and into that pile, now live with those buildings in our lungs and digestive systems and our blood. And if you allow these scumbags to strip you and this movement of our legitimacy, you condemn first responders to death.
To defend the actions, the criminal actions of the Bush administration. Our leaders and respected organizations are lying to us.
On est dans une situation et dans une époque où on ment, mais on ment, mais on ment. Mais
Because without accurate information, without an accurate understanding of the world, you cannot have a functional democracy. If people don't know what's going on, and if people don't understand what their leaders are doing, there's no democracy.
Mr. Godfrey Bloom, 1 minute.
Mr. President, I take the opportunity of wishing the East European cities well in the coming of the very early skiing season, and snow and ice that's come there, what of course is indicative of the fact that, as independent science has now confirmed, that the globe is actually cooling and has been cooling since 2002, broadly flat since 1998. We're all talking about something here which isn't happening. I've heard time and time again members here talk of CO2 as a pollutant. A pollutant is a life-giving natural gas. It gives me the impression that some of our members haven't had the benefit of a formal education. Isn't this really just about the state being able to get its hand in ordinary people's trouser pocket to steal yet more tax from them? Isn't this all about political control? Isn't all this about politics and big business? The whole thing's a sham. This bogus hypothesis, this ridiculous nonsense that man-made CO2 is causing global warming. Enough, please, before we damage irrevocably the global economy.
It was Enron came up with the idea of the carbon tax in the mid-90s with Al Gore. It's a scam, and it has nothing to do with the environment.
I've often heard it said that there is a consensus of thousands of scientists on the global warming issue and that humans are causing a catastrophic change to the climate system. Well, I am one scientist, and there are many that simply think that is not true.
Je remets en cause la responsabilité de l'homme dans ce qui serait un réchauffement climatique et même dans celui qui a été observé de 78 à 98. Je la remets en cause dans la mesure où elle n'est pas prouvée. Je ne dis pas qu'elle n'est pas fondée. Je dis simplement qu'on ne sait pas. Peut-être qu'on prouvera qu'effectivement l'homme est responsable, mais peut-être qu'on trouvera que c'est la nature qui est responsable.
When people say we don't believe in global warming, I say no, I believe in global warming. I don't believe that human CO2 is causing that warming.
A few years ago, if you would ask me, I would tell you it's CO2. Why? Because just like everyone else in the public, I listened to what the media had to say.
On commence à me casser les oreilles avec cette histoire de CO2. Il y a des risques bien plus graves.
Time frame, we would never suspect CO2 as a major climate driver.
None of the major climate changes in the last 1,000 years can be explained by CO2.
We can't say that CO2 will drive climate. It certainly never did in the past.
Become like a religion. And people who disagree are called heretics. I'm a heretic. The makers of this program are all heretics.
In 2005, a House of Lords inquiry was set up to examine the scientific evidence of man-made global warming. A leading figure in that inquiry was Lord Lawson of Blaby, who, as Chancellor of the Exchequer in the 1980s, was the first politician to commit government money to global warming research.
We had a very, very thorough inquiry, took evidence from a whole lot of people expert in this area and produced a report. What surprised me was to discover how weak and uncertain the science was. In fact, there are more and more thoughtful people, some of them a little bit frightened to come out in the open, but who quietly, privately, and some of them publicly, are saying, hang on, wait a minute, this simply doesn't add up.
We are told that the Earth's climate is changing. But the Earth's climate is always changing. In Earth's long history, there have been countless periods when it was much warmer and much cooler than it is today, when much of the world was covered by tropical forests, or else vast ice sheets. The climate has always changed, and changed without any help from us humans. Common prejudice that scientists who do not agree with the theory of man-made global warming must be being paid by private industry to tell lies.
I get it all the time. You must be in the pay of the multinationals. Sadly, like most of the scientists you'll talk to, I haven't seen a penny from the multinationals.
I'm always accused of being paid by the oil and gas companies. I've never received a nickel from the oil and gas companies. I joke about I wish they would pay me, then I could afford their product.
Whenever anybody says that I'm in the pay of an oil company, I say my bank manager would wish.
The United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC.
Alors, ils utilisent des modèles, puisque aujourd'hui, en fait, toute la climatologie se réduit essentiellement à un certain nombre de données partielles et de modèles complexes qu'ils font tourner sur des gros ordinateurs. Et à partir de ces modèles, ils prévoient ce que va être la température moyenne. Donc, à partir de leurs modèles, ils trouvent que, compte tenu de notre production de CO2, et si elle continue au rythme actuel, même en la limitant, on aurait une augmentation de 2 degrés de la température moyenne. Mais ce ne sont que des modèles.
GIEC, GIEC pour Groupement intergouvernemental d'études du climat en français. Ce groupement, tous les 5 ans, fait un rapport sur l'état des connaissances. Voici une des figures fondamentales du dernier rapport qu'il a remis en 2007 à l'ensemble des gouvernements et qui est la base de tout ce que vous pouvez lire dans tous les journaux et dans toutes les décisions d'hommes politiques ou de gouvernements sur le réchauffement climatique. Puis au-dessus, vous voyez très mal une carte géographique du monde entier. Vous devez à peine distinguer les lignes de côte des continents. Et on a fait les moyennes de température par continent pour l'Amérique du Nord, l'Europe, l'Amérique du Sud, l'Afrique, l'Asie et l'Australie, qui sont à peu près mises dans leur position sur ce planisphère. Vous voyez que toutes ces courbes montrent le réchauffement climatique. Elles montrent toute une montée jusque dans les années 40, une descente, pas toutes, mais la plupart, jusque dans les années 70, et une franche montée depuis les années 70, le réchauffement climatique. Et c'est ce diagramme qui, pour le GIEC et pour tous les gouvernements du monde, démontre à 90 chances sur 100, dit le rapport, que le réchauffement climatique désormais est sorti du bruit, qu'il est dû à l'homme, qu'il est dû au gaz carbonique et aux gaz à effet de serre relâchés par l'homme et qu'il se mesure par ces courbes.